Welcome to this discussion on a very important theme of declining interest in science. As Dr. Barba said, science is a way of life. It's not just knowledge of science, it's also how you lead your life has to be scientific. Today, to attract students into career in science, two things are required. One is their interest and curiosity should be raised. There are some who are born with this kind of interest and curiosity, but there are others who can be guided into it. And in that connection, I think science teachers have to play a very important role. And today, if you want career in science to be built up and more students to come, I think you have to first address the issue of science teachers like Jana Vigyan Vedika is doing. And then second, of course, is the reward carrot at the end of the day. Because after studying science, you have to have some reward. You may not get paid as much as, say, an IAS officer, though you should. But at least it should be reasonable to get attracted. Today we find more and more men diverting into careers in management, IT and things like that. And that gap is being filled by women. A few years ago, the Department of Science and Technology organized committees to study the women in science career for women. And at that time, we found very few women in certain fields like agriculture and engineering. In medicine, there are quite a few women. Today, that situation is changing, and we are seeing more and more women going even into agriculture. In fact, some agriculture colleges, even universities also have reservation. And women are taking up even engineering, though because the parents don't want to pay for the coaching classes, they are not being able to compete in IIT exam. But the problem is really when what they call glass ceiling, it appears when you move from studying science to practicing science. After studying science, invariably women get a career break. For biological reasons, they get married, they have to, and say what you may, a mother's responsibility towards raising the family is more than that of the others. So there is a career break. And then there is another reason, but to help this situation, in our report that BSc brought out, we have made many suggestions. There has to be support systems. In good old days, we had joint families. So even if one woman took up a career, there were other women in the house. You may not get along with the mother-in-law, but the mother-in-law at least is there to look after the children. Even if servant is there, there's somebody to supervise. Now situation is changing. There are more and more nuclear families. So it's becoming more and more difficult for career women. So you need support systems both at home and at work. And there, all organizations should have proper creche, campus housing where possible, transport arrangements, and it's a big issue. I cannot go into everything. Department of Science and Technology has got a scheme, a fellowship program, what they call re-entry program. When there is a career break and women want to re-enter and take up career in science, they can avail of this fellowship. And they also have programs for mentoring, because after a career break, science is very competitive. You can't get into it suddenly. They have now even got a program. Very often when husbands get transferred, the wife is not able to join and she has a career break. So they have a program for wives to get jobs, a fellowship. But the fellowship is for 3 years maybe, but after 3 years what happens? They're back to square one. So there are many, many issues. we find that there are many biases. Apart from these practical problems, there are subconscious biases. Recent issue of PNAs, Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, there was a paper in which there was an experiment. A biodata was developed for a physics laboratory supervisor. 250 professors, the same biodata went. Half of them carried the name of the author as woman, Jill, Mary, whatever. The other half had male name. Systematically, the biodata which went with female name got poor ranking. And this happened not with the male reviewers, but also with female reviewers. So there is no gender difference. It is an unconscious bias, whether it is invitation to conferences, whether anything you take, very often it is unmet gender bias that plays out. Even when you report, when newspapers report conference proceedings, they invariably leave out female speakers. They will list out only male speakers. And this has happened. I don't have time to go into this. So I think I will come in later if necessary. Another thing, research is not 9 to 5 job. Teaching is 9 to 5, but research is not. And so you need support systems, and it's becoming, even campuses are becoming unsafe. So in such a situation, women are afraid to stay back and continue with their experiments late in the evening. When I was a student at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, many years ago, when most of you were not born, there was only one Beckman BU between biochemistry, pharmacology, and enzymology departments. So we got a reservation at 10 o'clock in the night after fighting. And there was an old Beckman BU with a battery which needed to be scraped every now and then because the power would go down. As Sienna Rao says, in those days we had plenty of power and water, but no instruments. Now there's plenty of equipment, but no power and water. So these are some of the issues which need to be addressed if we want more and more people to take up science career, particularly women. So without taking more time, now let me invite Dr. Tyagarajan to make his presentation.